So in this video of the HTML5 game series, I'm going to be showing you how to do the rotation of the body and the cannon separately. And then also I added the ability to rotate the tank. So the controls are a little bit different from the last video. And basically, if you press D, it's going to rotate the tank to the right, and then A is going to rotate the tank to the left. And W and S are going to go forward and backwards. So it's more of a realistic control system for moving around a tank. If you haven't already seen some of the videos in this series, be sure to check them out because things are just going to get more complicated from here on out. And then also, I should mention all the code from all these series are kind of in separate folders inside of this Git repo. So github.com/CodySeibert/YouTube. And you can find all of the different progressions as we kind of build out this simple game. So moving on to the code, the main thing that changed is on the input file, we added a new listener, basically the mouse move listener. And I basically just copied some of the code that we used for rotating object towards mouse. So video number 3 of the series. But again, yeah, I'm just grabbing the mouse movement and then keeping track of that on the state whenever someone moves the mouse. So nothing too big there. But if I move on to the tank, this is where a majority of the changes happened. And let me just go directly to the update and draw function. So if you look at the update function, it's split into kind of 3 separate steps, I guess you could say. The first step is we determine the gun rotation, and that is basically when you move the mouse around, running that code that we did in video 3. And then we determine the body rotation, which is basically incrementing or decrementing an angle based on if you're holding down the turn left or turn right buttons. And then finally, we move the tank based on your rotation set. And the draw method is a little bit different. I split it up into drawing the body and drawing the gun because those are both using different rotation values for drawing. So it makes sense to kind of split those up. And the order does matter when drawing, so you make sure you draw the gun after the body so that it actually shows up. If I were to switch this order, you'll see that the gun is underneath the tank. So that is something to kind of keep track of, is the order that you render. It's going to render from bottom to top. So let's dive into these 3 separate steps and try to see what's going on here. The gun rotation is nothing different from video 3. Well, there is a little bit of difference. I've noticed that video 3 I did mention something incorrect about using A10. The correct way to do it is the first argument is going to be your Y difference, and the second argument is your X difference, and that'll give you the angle from the tank to your mouse. So sorry about that in video 3, but it's not that big of a deal, I guess. So again, as we move the mouse, we get the angle that the gun needs to be. And if we look at the asset for the gun, you just need to make sure that it's pointing off at theta 0. So theta 0, if you don't know your angles in geometry, 0 starts here, pi starts here, and then 2 pi goes back. So this is pi over 2, and this is 3 pi over 2. We don't need to get into that. Just know that the angle needs to be pointing to the right, starting off. All right, so that was the first step. We determined the gun rotation. The other step is we determine the body rotation. So if I go into this function here, you'll see that we check if the left button is pressed. So A on my keyboard, basically. And then if we're holding down back, we need to rotate the body in a positive direction based on some rotation speed. And then if you're not holding down back, so if you're holding down W or forward, we rotate to the left. And you'll probably see that if you were to grab this code and play it. But basically, before, if you're holding on S and you press D, it was rotating you back this way, which just felt kind of strange in terms of the controls in other games I've played. Pretty much what that if statement is doing, it just kind of reverses the orientation of where you're rotating, either clockwise or counterclockwise, based on if you're going forward or back. And then the same deal here, if you're holding right, and you're going back, you are going to rotate in a counterclockwise motion versus a clockwise motion. And then finally, we have a method called move tank towards body rotation, which is just going to set a speed to either positive or negative based on if you're going forward or back. And then if the speed is not equal to 0, we are then incrementing the tank's X and Y location using that angle. So math of cosine will give you the X direction, and then math of sine of the rotation will give you the Y direction. And then of course you times that by speed if you want the tank to go faster or slower. So that is basically what changed for the updating. And for drawing, it's basically the same code that we did for rotating an image. But for the body, we just rotate using a different variable here called body rotation. And we're going to render the image. And then up here, when we draw the gun, we are using the gun rotation for the rotate method, and we use the gun image here. So that should be pretty straightforward. Feel free to grab this code and kind of play around with it if you don't understand what's going on. And the last thing I didn't kind of show is the state also updated a little bit, but nothing too much. Basically, we have a body rotation variable and a body rotation speed. So if I wanted to make the tank rotate faster to the left and right, I could update this to like 0.5, and you'll notice that's going a lot faster. Or if I go like 1, let's see how fast this goes. So obviously that's too fast, but anyway, you can play around with these variables too. I'm sure you could make the tank go faster and see how that goes. Ooh. All right. Cool. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up the changes I did for making the tank, the gun and the body rotate with different rotation angles. And then also I changed the inputs that kind of drive the tank around differently. Again, if you want access to the code, it is posted at this link here, and I'll put that in the description of the video. Feel free to leave comments, or if you have suggestions, leave them in the comment section of this video. And be sure to like and subscribe if this helps you out at all. All right, thanks for watching.